Something I've been thinking a lot about lately is we have certain rituals in our society, right? Like in American society, you could say like the Super Bowl is a ritual and like
Sure.
everyone participates in it, and your birthday is a ritual, and graduating from high school is a ritual, and a wedding is a ritual, right? Like we ritualize certain things in our society. I think one of the most defining questions in a person's life is, have you felt your pain? And until you have felt your pain, life is this pattern of avoidance, right? Like you're describing, and we're all doing it to some degree. Like when my pain starts arising and I don't want to feel it, yeah, I want to eat, I want to party like crazy, I want to work too hard, I want to watch Netflix, I want to escape, right? And I notice that my desire to escape the moment correlates with the amount of unfelt pain that is coming into my consciousness. And so much of what we look at in our society as like broken, right? Like addiction and abuse and, obesity issues that are tied to deeply unhealthy patterns of eating, just escapism generally, like phone addiction, all of that. And then, like cheating, porn addiction, all of that. To me, it all comes back to, I don't want to feel my pain. So I'm like, why don't we ritualize feeling our pain, right? It sounds so unsexy, and yet it's one of the sexiest things you could ever do, because we're kind of like just waiting for people to randomly find their way to the jackpot, which is not what you would think it is, right? It's not actually making millions of dollars. It's not finding the perfect person. It's not the most magical drug that just got invented. It's not the right pharmaceutical drug or the perfect therapist. It's literally, can you feel your own pain? Because then you can come home to yourself and then you can stop running, right? And then those things become an expression of joy and celebration, like sex or having a party with your friends or whatever it is, or making money, rather than trying to escape the moment. And so you brought us to this point where you're in your 30s, right? And it sounds like you were like, okay, time to face the trauma, time to feel the pain, time to come home to myself. You said this opening with your partner at the time kind of precipitated that. What else made you feel like, okay, it's time now. It's time to do this rite of passage?
You shared a lot there, and I very much resonate with you. And a lot of the work that I do, I guess, for myself and for others, it's not very sexy. It's not these beautiful tantric postures or Kama Sutric postures and masculine, feminine polarity dynamics. And it is, but not first. It's really that, feeling the pain. But in order for us to feel our pain, the reason why we don't feel our pain is because it's not a desirable place to be as a human. We're also fed by society that, we live in a hedonistic society, essentially. So
I think we live in an escapist society. I wish we
so.
lived in a
Through
more
hedonism.
truly
Yeah.
hedonistic society.
Yeah,
I think
good
people
point.
know entertainment rather than true pleasure, which would be hedonism.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. Very well said. And we live in a society of escapism and distraction and avoidance. And the reason why if we can sustain it and feel the pain in safe ways, and there's ways to do that, of course, there's methodologies and practices for that. And part of that is being in the healthy presence of others, in the presence of other healthy individuals. We feel more whole and integrated, because now we're not just focusing on this polarized version of ourselves, which is, I need to be happy all the time, or I need to experience pleasure all the time, because that can be a very slippery slope, right? So for me, it was an interesting thing. Not only did I hit rock bottom, not only did I feel a lot of shame in that moment, some of my memories that I had suppressed and repressed started coming to the surface when I was younger. It's like that experience triggered all this additional shame, the core of my shame and the core of my pain. When I came face to face with that, something, I can't explain it, I'll be honest with you. It's just one of those things. I think it's dharmic, it's karmic, it just is what it is. Something esoteric that we can't necessarily explain. I'm okay with that. I explain a lot of shit in my life and for others, and I'm okay not explaining some things. And I got to that, and the pain was more overwhelming than ever. And there was a voice that said, keep going. we've got three choices. We face it, we commit suicide, it's too much. We face it, we go too deep, we end up in a mental asylum. We face it, we get through it. And I was like, who's we? Voice just kept saying, you're going to choose a third path. And the other two, if they happen, they happen. But can you just stay with it? Just stay with it. And actually don't even worry about what happens. I said, okay. So I just went and I went deep and I just kept going and going and going and going and going and going. I've been to places that no human being should go. And I really mean that.
I want to hear about those places. I agree that the best partners, period, of all genders, but I'll say especially the best male partners are the ones who have been to those places that you say no one should go. Like, have you met yourself? Is so important, but we don't initiate boys and men that way. And something like I feel oftentimes is no one fucking knows what to do with their pain, right? I was even kind of contemplating, right, in like the best somatic therapy and breath work and stuff like that. We're still trying to alchemize. We're still trying to transform our emotions. We're still trying to heal our childhood, right? Just that raw, can you be with your own pain? And I think I say this often to people in my professional certification. The fabulousness of my life has more to do with my willingness to feel my pain and my fear and my discomfort than it does with how much I wanted things to be fabulous. We all want things to be fabulous. We all want things to be fantastic. We all want extraordinary lives. It's, are you willing to feel the depth of your discomfort, the depth of your pain, the depth of your heartbreak? Because that's how we come home to ourselves and live a life of truth. And that's where you get an extraordinary life from. The other thing is that I've been very humbled by stages and cycles of pain, right? Like I feel very lucky that I did my first Vipassana meditation when I was 19. I went to Asia when I was 15. So my eyes were open to this other way of living, right? The cool thing about Vipassana, a 10-day meditation retreat where for 3 hours a day, starting on like the 5th day or something, they ask you not to move, right? So you literally go into a pretty excruciating amount of pain. If you don't move for a whole hour, at some point, your knees are like, go fuck yourself, right? And so I learned to sit there with my physical pain, getting excruciating, and I learned that I could be with it. But I also started having really potent flashbacks of my sexual abuse as a child. And the most horrific stomach pain, the most horrific rage, right? And so I had this lifetime's gift, right, of being courageous enough. It was literally right after my 19th birthday. I've always been a partier and a meditator. 19th birthday, took a bunch of MDMA, wrote "fuck me, I'm 19" on my back, danced in all the bars in Thailand. Like 3 days later, I was like in the monastery. so it's been part of my path. And you know, I've not thought about it quite this way before as I have sitting here talking to you, but I learned, because you sit there for 10 hours a day and you don't move, to feel my pain, right? To just be with it. And there's something powerful about not always trying to transform it, but learning to be with it, right? And so for years, that ability to be with my pain helped me heal that sexual trauma, the complex emotional PTSD from growing up, all kinds of pieces. What I was humbled by in the last year was when I was like, okay, I had this beautiful partnership with Andrew, Australian Pisces, and I was like, I know that I'm playing it safe. Andrew is a king. Andrew's fucking epic. Andrew continues to blow my mind in his path. And in our partnership, in that dynamic, I was playing it safe. And he was hiding a bit. He's gone even more into his spiritual power and his authenticity. And I went to my altar and I said, I want the highest love and the most beautiful partnership and the deepest sex. I will do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes. That was my prayer to the universe. And I got my heart ripped out because, as I know are part of your teachings that I want to talk about in just a moment, and you said when you came in here and we were talking before the podcast, so much of what underlies our sexual and relational behavior is actually trauma. Right. So you can teach people all the fancy tools in the world, but if you haven't done the work on your trauma, it's not necessarily going to get you the sex and relationship of your dreams. And so in that process, right, I started dating this emperor of a man, right? And he would like come visit me on his private plane. And I was a fucking wreck. And I was like, why am I such a wreck? And I was like, oh, this is my first true power match, right? Like he had been doing energy practices since he was 17. So he had like life power and energy power. And my system went into like a chaos and a pain beyond anything I'd ever known. And I meditated through sexual abuse flashbacks, right? And I was like, holy shit, like our relational trauma bodies are so potent and we don't even talk about it in society. You're one of the few people I know, like some of us are doing this work, but you're one of the few people I know who like will articulate about that relational trauma body so deeply. And I sat in front of my altar. It was June of last year. And I remember I was just crying and freaking out. And all of this pain was coming out of me. And I sat in front of the altar and I was like, I can be with this. I can be with this. I can be with this. And for the first time in my whole life, because it wasn't just my personal sexual trauma and it wasn't just my childhood trauma, it was now my relational trauma body that I was feeling. And I was like, I can be with all my pain. And the other thing that I felt was I was like, love is infinite. This pain is massive, but it's not infinite. So my love has to be infinitely bigger than my pain because this pain is as big as anything I've ever felt except love. And so if love is infinite and pain is finite, I can feel this because I am love, not pain. And I actually felt I was like able to sit with all of my fucking relational pain and it was excruciating. And all I wanted to do was like eat gluten-free cake and like take drugs. I'm not like a big like drug taker to avoid things, but I was like, somebody give me something, make the pain go away. And I had so much compassion for addiction. You know, it's just like, just make this go away. Holy fucking shit. And I have the best coaches in the world, the best spiritual teachers, the best therapists. And I'm like, holy fuck, what are we doing as a society that we are not helping people more in their journey to feel their own pain? Because holy fuck, I'm as privileged as it gets. I've been doing this for a long time and I am right on the edge of what I can possibly handle, right? And so when you say go places where you shouldn't go, it's like we should all go there actually. We should all be able to sit with our own pain, but we have very few people initiating us into that.
When we're ready.
When we're ready.
Yeah, because when we're not ready, we commit suicide.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Because we don't have the support. If it was ritualized and initiated,
correct,
and you had community around you,
yeah,
you wouldn't kill yourself.